Welcome to JustB2B Leaders, a podcast where we are going to interview leaders from B2B companies that they are willing to generate a better business, more predictable and scalable through the transformation of their organizations. 3, 2, 1, yeah! Hello, how are you guys? Welcome to this new podcast. Today we have Belen Diaz with us from BUCHI. Belen, who is Belen Diaz?
Hello, good morning, Oscar. Thanks for inviting me. Who is Belen Diaz? Well, I'm actually from Spain, from the south of Spain, and I study chemistry. So I come from this life science background, and I moved around Europe to study my chemistry degree. I did a PhD in Scotland, so I have this international journey while I was in the lab, until I end up moving into sales and marketing for laboratory companies. So I started doing some cold calling myself. So I was a bit of the telephone seller, where I learned a lot.
I didn't know that.
And yeah, that was a tough part of the journey, actually. It's a very difficult...
So a PhD doing cold calling?
Yes.
That's interesting.
To sell our services to some labs. And from there, I got interested into sales and marketing. So my first move was into lead generation and marketing topics in different companies within the lab industry. And I ended up 2 years ago back in Spain with a Swiss company doing B2B sales for our products in the country, in Spain and Portugal, actually.
Very good. When did we meet each other?
I think it was just before the pandemic in 2019.
Okay.
I started in 2018 doing my MBA in Warwick University in the UK.
Okay.
And at some point, I have to select some elective modules to do. And by that time, I already knew I will get a job in Spain in B2B sales. So it was perfectly fitting your module that you were offering in study in Barcelona. So I came for an elective here in 2019.
Very good. Tell us a little bit more about BUCHI. What is BUCHI? What do you do, guys?
BUCHI is a Swiss company.
Okay.
We manufacture instruments for the laboratory equipment for different industries, pharmaceutical, chemical, food feed, environmental companies, basically in quality control labs and research labs. And our profile of customers are the science I was before, so the people working in the lab trying to find some new wow moments for the discovery of new products and new pharmaceutical ingredients.
Okay, very good. So tell me, let's talk about this podcast is called JustB2B Leaders. You are a B2B leader leading the business in Spain and in Spain for BUCHI, right? Mm-hmm. What are for you the main challenges that a leader like yourself you are facing when we think about the B2B business? And I'll give you some structure to answer, right? I really like to talk about people, process, and data, right? So people, culture, process, the key processes to have relationship with the client, and data. What is the right data that you need to do the governance of the relationship? So just tell us what are for you the main challenges that you're facing today or you faced in the past, and let's start the conversation.
That's very difficult, very interesting as well. For me, it's a very special question because when I started in BUCHI in Spain 2 years ago, we had no processes and we had no data because we started from zero. We were sent here.
What was your position when you started in BUCHI?
I started in Switzerland 10 years ago as a head of global marketing.
Okay.
It was an international role.
Okay.
And 2 years ago, I transferred into the sales and general manager of BUCHI in Spain.
Okay. So you are the general manager today in BUCHI, Spain. Okay.
Spain and Portugal, actually.
Okay.
And that was the difference of my past. Probably when I started here, the basic pillar of everything were people. That was the only valuable thing I had because I had not previous data, because we started from zero, and the processes were still very unclear. We were a bunch of people trying to do the job the best we could, but with not very well-defined processes. So I think people were my biggest strength, but as well the biggest challenge. And that is where I still, 2.5 years later, I try to focus all the time in developing the people, in team trust, in the culture between us, in really, trust is the base of everything, good communication, improving how we work as a team. Because I realized with my own eyes that it doesn't matter how well processes and data are anyway, the people are what really matters. And now, of course, these challenges with the people, you have to extend it to the processes and data. Of course, you have to improve. And now we have in place some processes, and we start collecting data that will help us to improve our business. But the pillar of everything are the people. And that's where we have to spend most of our time, or at least myself, I feel I have to invest most of my time.
Do you think that is more important people in B2B than in B2C?
Absolutely.
Why?
Because we are selling a solution. We are not selling a product. Then trust is the most important thing in B2B. And if customers don't trust us as people, whoever they talk with my salesperson or the service or the whole support we give in the organization, then we are lost. Doesn't matter how good our product will be, because in B2B, you need to trust with whom are you doing the investment.
Sure, yeah.
And that's only people can.
Yeah, this is where I used to use the expression, we are in the people business, right, in B2B. Then you mean that you market people? You think that people is part of what you are offering to your clients, and do you look for a pattern of the BUCHI people in Spain and Portugal?
You mean like a profile of skills of people?
Yeah.
Yeah, it has to fit with the culture. I think we really have a strong values and vision and mission in the company, and the people that join us, it has to really be aligned with that. Because this is the solution we want to give, and what we want to provide to customers is who we are, really who we are. Not everyone fits there. And this open communication, being open-minded, being solution-oriented, all these are things I look for people when I'm doing interviews, and that's more important than the technical skills, actually. It's the communication skills are something crucial.
Probably you need the technical skills as well, right?
Yeah.
But it's like a must, right?
Exactly, yeah. But you can teach more the technical part, but saying the communication skills of a person is more difficult.
And do you work in like a cultural declaration of what is the right way to behave if you are a bookie? This is a funny question, because you know when I grew up in a scale-up, and we almost had that. It's like you need to behave like that. And now with some background, I really realized that they were really working on the culture to be part of the solution, right? The solution is not just my B2B mix, right? The solution, the company, and the people behind, right? So
in a way, I don't like how that sounds, because it feels like they tell you how you have to behave and you have to fit in the culture, and it has to be natural. It's a natural process to get into that. But that's true, and you see people in a team, usually they all behave together. The culture is contagious. You get that from your colleagues. But it has to be a natural way, not like you get a person and you tell them this is the way you have to behave. I think that will never work.
Let me give you an example. I used to recommend to my sales team to do the minutes of the meeting of the prospect in the parking of the client. Mm-hmm. And now I'm sure that this was a cultural declaration. So, and it was because nobody was trusting us. Okay. I'm talking about a startup, right? So nobody was trusting us. So with your behavior, you compensate this lack of trust, looking very reliable. Okay, yeah, I'm leaving my meeting, I'm doing the minutes of the meeting in the parking of the client, right? Do you have this type of rules of behavior that you think that now perhaps you have them and you didn't realize?
It can be. I'm trying to think in our daily business, how many of these habits, I think there are habits we get within the company.
Routines, yeah.
And probably we don't realize them. But probably, and they come from all the corners. Like we have a very strict appraisal process with employees, one-to-ones with them all the time. And this is given like a rule of something we have to do, but I think it goes in that direction. It helps us to communicate, to be more open to our supervisors within us. So maybe this appraisal process, it can go in this line you're talking about.
Okay. I was thinking now, what are the main difference between, so you were head of marketing of a large company for 8 years. Mm-hmm. So this is what we call it's in Spanish we say cabeza de león, cola de ratón, no? Mm-hmm. You move from a big, an important position, and now and not that important position. I'm not saying that marketing is not an important position, but not that important position. You were now the CEO, and now you are the last responsible of the business in Spain and Portugal. What are the differences for you in terms of your mindset leading the business, the team, the process? What are the key differences? What was your game changer in terms of how you approach your day, your week?
I would recommend to everyone always do both because you can really see the perspective.
Always what?
Do both.
Okay.
Have this more global vision of the business, and then the more concrete and sales part of the business, because both are very different, but you learn so much from both, and it helps you to understand each other as well, so improve communication and trust again. The biggest change for me is speed. When you are in an organization on the sales side of the organization, you need things now. It's customer-centric. You need to now give response. You have to drive the business. It's super dynamic.
Nobody will do it for you.
Yeah, exactly. And you have to be very creative, innovative all the time, work around and trying to be agile and very quick and dynamic to adapt to the daily business, which is calling you. And that's the biggest difference. When you are in more corporate position, they are just trying to bring the tools and the content that people need to do their job. But you are in endless meetings all the time, discussing small details of something that you become much more pragmatic on this side of the business.
So you mean that now you're more accountable?
Accountability could be. I think now you can be accountable on the other side as well. But the speed is really the speed is the biggest difference, I think.
Yeah, and it's I understand what you mean. At the end of the day, you see a very fast result of what you have been cooking in the morning. You can see the smell at night, right?
Yeah, and you are more independent as well in how you can carry your business and what you can do, because you need this speed. You don't have time to discuss it with so many people. So then it gives you more independence, more freedom of taking decisions. Okay.
You said many things so far. It's B2B and B2C, they are quite different compared to the people business. Mm-hmm. It's all about risk and trust, right? And I think that I wanted to ask to you as well about, culturally speaking, have you seen any change between your past and your present in terms of the time you were in headquarters to the time you are in leading Spain and Portugal?
Culturally, I mean, it depends. Internal culture, I think no. I think BUCHI has a very strong internal culture, and we feel all part of the same thing. I think it's a core competence of us. But culturally, of course, each country, its mentality is different. It's not you cannot do business the same you do with a German person as you do with a Spanish person, because they could crash, and it's not always the same. Or Asia, some countries like Japan or China are so far away of how we work in Spain. So I think that's as well a mindset or something that we have to adapt. I think adaptability is very important as well in business. When you have a global position, you have to change. I always say it's like the hat I put on depending with whom I'm talking. So I have my Chinese hat when I talk with a Chinese colleague, or my American hat with American colleagues. And now I have all the time the Spanish hat. I change to the Swiss hat when I have to talk with headquarters, of course, because there are a lot of cultural implications, and that's a very interesting topic, actually, of doing international business.
So you are a PhD, very flexible.
Yeah, actually, I am.
Very good. Hey, what about process and data? Okay, we agreed that people is probably very important in B2B because at the end of the day they buy our people, they buy our culture, right? But what are for you the main challenges you have faced from a process and data point of view? What are the critical processes for you
I will
to approach
bring a bit
B2B
back
clients?
what we discussed before as well with processes. When we implement processes they have to be flexible as well. I believe on that. Like if we try to replicate the processes that comes top down, they depend on the culture and on the different ways we work in different countries. And I think obviously we cannot just copy paste what they do in the USA or they do in other countries. We have to adapt it. So processes, they have to be flexible, but it's very important they're in place so the people can really have a proper direction where to go. And I'm a data-driven person. I have a PhD, so I'm a scientific one, so I really like data and I believe in data. You have to prove to me something works with data to believe that this is the right way to go on. But as well, I think we should not get totally blind by data because data reflects what we know from the past. But again, we live in a very dynamic world that keeps changing. And we saw in the last couple of years how many things is affecting what we do. And it's continuously moving. So we have to use data to take decisions. But probably very crucial is to have always a plan B or to have this action plan in case of something is different.
Okay, you said many things. Oh my God, you said, it's important to have a process, but it's important as well to be flexible enough to adapt to the situation. Data is critical, but I remember one sentence that I used to use, which is not everything that counts can be counted, and not everything that can be counted counts, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Which is a little bit, I guess, is a little bit your point. So let's be careful to just be data-driven, right? So, what are if you think about your past and the main mistakes that you have learned a lot through these mistakes about process and data? What are the things that you think, okay, I learned a lot doing that? It was a big learning that we can share with people listening to us, and you think that it was something that really helped to you to I don't know how you learn. I learn a lot with mistakes, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's the best way. That's the best way to learn always. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's sometimes we are with data. The problem I have with data, which I think it's very important. I love it, but the problem is we can be a bit stubborn into what data is telling us. And I think we should really always try to see things from different perspectives and do the paradigm shift sometimes to bring this innovation and creativity we need. And if we do what data and process tell us, we'll just do what everyone is doing it. And I believe the only way to move away of this way and be special, maybe you fail 20 times on the way, but the way to make things different, it's to actually ignore the data sometimes. And this maybe I think is the mistake I myself and many people does, that we follow the process and what data tell us, and then we are just doing well. But we could do excellent if we break everything and try something new. I believe in creativity and innovation.
So, Belen, so what are those situations where you really wake up in the middle of a conversation and you fight for the B2B pride, right? To say, hey, guys, we do B2B. Tell me some examples.
Well, I'm a fighter, so I can really jump into some discussions. One that it really drives me crazy is always we end up in the discussion with the sales rep why we lost an order. And they say, because we are too expensive, we are the most expensive. And then someone that pretends to know the business very well, it tells you, no, it cannot be. It's not price because it's like an iPhone. Everyone has an iPhone, right? And it's the most expensive phone. And wherever you go in the world, they have an iPhone in the pocket. So price is not something for people. And then it's like, no, guys, we are not talking to people, we are talking to companies. So this is a B2B business, it's not B2C. So don't compare our solution with an iPhone. It's a very emotional driving thing, or it can be fashion, it can be whatever reasons why people buy an iPhone. I do have one myself. But what we sell is something else. We are selling a solution. We are helping people to fix a problem. And there, the value is not the price of the product itself, it's the whole company. Why I compare myself with competition mostly goes into people, into the whole experience, from the first moment they see something from the marketing department in their inbox to the moment that the service person go and install.
And there you have my B2B mix, right? The solution, the company, and the people, right?
Exactly.
And they simplify to just to the product. And you are thinking, I'm a B2B leader, I'm doing a hard job of building a great company behind and a great team behind, and they just discuss about the product.
Price and product. No, it's the whole experience of the customer journey that counts. And there as well, from my past, from this marketing role I had in BUCHI, I can say as well that this is very different to B2C. And when I recruit people, I always try to get people with experience in B2B, because it's a different mindset, which is difficult to change. Sure, we are doing marketing to people as well, because the people working in company, there are still people. But the emotions that you trigger when you send marketing, it's not the same emotions you have to trigger to a person which is in a consumer. It takes longer to convince a person of the value. When you sell a solution in an industry like BUCHI, you don't have one person that takes a decision. The influencers in the process, it can go up to 11, 12 people that have to be involved in this decision. And that's the type of marketing you do is totally different.
How different is B2C marketing compared to B2B marketing for you?
Very different. The biggest difference, I think, is the time of the process as well. It's not
the time of the relationship.
It's not like one emotion, I see a marketing thing, I like it and I buy. No, you need to build up the trust. Again, it's always in trust, right? You have to first trigger as well these emotions on the person, but then it's a process of educating how your solution can help them, and making them realize what their problem is so you can fix their problems. So it's an educational process that we do it together. It's more like a consulting job that you do to customers until they realize from the marketing perspective, oh yeah, BUCHI is the one that can help me.
Yeah.
And there, of course, the whole organization get involved in the sales process. But the way you approach people in B2B, it's much more long term. That's something actually drove me very crazy on my MBA, because I did my MBA mostly in the Warwick University in the UK, a part of the module I did here with you. And all the case studies they always put in the table, they were on marketing, especially McDonald's and Red Bull. Like it was like cars. Like I was frustrated at some point because you invest quite a lot of time and money into doing an MBA.
Everything was
and
B2C.
Everything it was B2C. And the 80-90% of the people in the class, we were in B2B. So we were always complaining to our professors of like, we should involve more B2B cases on...
Now I understand why you took the elective at ESADE about B2B.
Yeah, I needed that. Okay. A bit of reality for me. Yes. Yeah, I don't know if you have the same in here, but for me it was pretty frustrating that I was all the time getting examples of marketing in McDonald's. It's nothing to do with what marketing in B2B means.
I remember when I'm a practitioner, right? When I was trying to scale my scale up 20 years ago, and talking to my marketing person and always telling to him, our clients, they don't trust us. And it's their duty to do a due diligence if they want to work with us or not. Our duty is to bring proofs of value that minimize their risk starting to work with us.
Exactly.
So it's all about that, right? It's just about building and giving to them the right tools for them to believe that they can work with us. And when you buy an iPhone, it's not the case.
Exactly.
You cannot lose your job, right? You cannot kill your department. You cannot do some incredible damage to your company, right? So that's at the end of the day, that's the point, right?
Yeah. In B2B, it's a relationship that you get with this a customer for a long time. When you sell a solution, it's not like there you have it and I move on. It's a process. It's really a long process.
I don't know how this will sound in English, but you are a very strange animal.
Okay. So they take it like a compliment.
Yeah, because you did chemistry, then a PhD, then you jump over you took the phone to do some cold calling, which is I'm not sure that many chemistry people like to do that. Then you moved to Switzerland to lead the marketing, and now you're general manager here in Spain, I guess, with the responsibility of P&L, right?
Yep.
So it's that's an interesting journey. So
curious person. So.
yeah, curious person. Okay, so has been a pleasure to interview you today, Belen.
It was a pleasure to be here.
Give me one sentence, like a summary that people leading B2B companies like yourself, like you think is a good summary of or a good advice or a good learning with the last 10, 15 years you have been involved in the B2B environment?
I'm not anyone to give advices. I think everyone has to learn on their own experience and mistakes. But something that really works for me all my journey, it was to keep the team motivated. With motivation, we can do brilliant stuff, and motivation is the driver of the energy of the people. And that's what we need in our companies, a motivated team.
That's good. So you mean that a B2B motivated team is going to have a footprint over the client?
Absolutely, yeah, they will.
Okay, now I see why you're thinking about motivation. Very good, super. Thank you very much. Thank you for coming.
Thank
you. Thank you, Belen. So thank you very much. Thank you for listening to this podcast. I hope you enjoyed the conversation we had with Belén, and we wait to have you in the next podcast. Thank you very much.